What's going on, guys? It's Sammy over at Infinity Aura Ave, and we're here for the mic drop. One way or another, we're gonna figure this out. Okay, I think that's good. I think I got it. What's going on, guys? It's Sammy over at Infinity Aura Ave, and as you can see, I'm sitting in a different spot, and that's because we're going to do things a little bit different, and I don't know how I'm going to edit this, so if it looks crazy, just bear with me because I got ideas in here, and I'm going to try to translate them, hopefully. So let's shrink me. Mute. Cool. Look at this cool new table that I got. What do you think? So what I want to do here is I want you guys to be able to see the chart with me when I'm talking about these things, so it seems a little less confusing. I'm going to paint these little things eventually, but right now they have the symbols with the planets on them, and I placed them for the chart for the full moon coming up. So today we're going to talk about the full moon in Scorpio, which is Monday, May 12th at 12:55 p.m. A full moon is the sun sitting across in the sky from the moon. So the sun is lighting up the moon, and that's why we have a full moon. In this particular full moon, the sun is also with Uranus. You can't see any of the other aspects here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure that one out, but at least we have somewhere to start here. We'll see where my brain takes this eventually. But some of the other aspects that we're going to be looking at here today is the sun with Uranus. Uranus also opposite the moon. Mars in Leo, trining Neptune in Aries. We've got the moon in Scorpio, trining Saturn and the North Node in Pisces. And we've got Mercury. Where's Mercury? On my table here. Mercury in Taurus, squaring Pluto in Aquarius. Over here. This is just talking about how the planets are looking at each other in the sky. So obviously the sun and the moon opposite each other causes a full moon. When I say squares, that's exactly what's happening. They're sitting at 90 degrees from each other. When I say trines, they're sitting at 120 degrees from each other. What does this mean? It's just about how the planets are looking at each other, aspecting each other. They're called aspects. And what they speak to is how the planets work together or are not working together. Some aspects are easier than others, but the more complicated ones come with greater benefits. So let's talk about the sun in the decans. Now, what the decans are these planet symbols out here on the outside. And each zodiac sign has different decans that are ruled by different planets. So in this particular moon, we've got the sun in the third decan of Taurus, and that is Saturn ruled. So this is a Venus sign in a Saturn ruled decan. The focus here is on patience and long-term building. You want to look at the area of your chart that Taurus rules, and there's a desire for more in this area of your life, but it's met with restrictions right now because that's what Saturn's about. And across on the chart, we've got the moon in Scorpio in the third decan, which is Venus ruled. So we've got a Mars ruled sign in a Venus ruled decan. And this decan represents just overwhelming amounts of choices. And because the moon is sitting in that decan, it's affecting you emotionally. The sun in Taurus is asking you to take a look at what you've built and the situation that you're in and to really assess it. As we know, the full moon is about releasing. So this full moon is asking you to release all those choices that are giving you anxiety, that are in the way of what you want to do next and what you have built in the Taurus area of your life. This is what you might think you want or what you might feel you want versus what you're willing to work for. Taurus is slow progress that you can see. Scorpio is ever-changing and transformational, but at the risk of your stability sometimes. And because they're at opposite ends of the chart, they're pulling at each other. The energy is not working together. One is pulling you one way and one's pulling you the other way. And because we're being asked to release where the moon is, you want to look at the Taurus stuff. What have you built? How far have you come? And what are all those choices trying to distract you from? So in this chart, the sun is technically behind Uranus. So the sun is approaching Uranus in this chart. Uranus moves much slower, so he's going to hang out here. And the sun's eventually going to move over this way and enter into Gemini season. soon, but not yet. Sun is approaching Uranus here, so it can feel like the path you're on is shaken up a little bit, but that will pass if you don't allow the big feelings of the full moon to overwhelm you. Now let's look at the trine between the moon in Scorpio to Saturn in Pisces and the North Node in Pisces. If you do end up having trouble with the emotional stuff, then you do have this opportunity to lean into the Saturn stuff for help. This is things like reviewing the foundations you built, giving yourself clear boundaries, and acting from a space of discipline instead of that emotional full moon stuff that's going on. So when planets are on top of each other like this, we call that a conjunction. Saturn is still conjunct Neptune and the North Node, so this is concerning where you're heading in life, which can be a little hard to really see clearly because Neptune can make things kind of hard to see. It's foggy, right? On the other hand, Neptune has a tendency to be a big dreamer, and he's kind of giving Saturn something to work for. So when you lean into where Saturn and the North Node are trying to take you, it is working with the moon. So they'll work together and it'll take some of the pressure off and help you to release those things that are not really working towards what you're going for. Let's talk about Mercury and Pluto. Mercury's in a square with a now retrograde Pluto. Mercury, Pluto. A square is a little bit more difficult of a transit. Makes things hard, but when you work with it, the benefit is greater because it doesn't come as easy for these two planets to work together. So Mercury in Taurus, square Pluto in Aquarius. This brings a mental battle between practicality and big, deep transformation. But because Pluto is retrograde here, there's not a lot of actual transformation needing to be done. It's actually more of a review of the transformation that you've already had. But this square does kind of have a tendency to create some overthinking, which can lead to anxiety if you let Pluto have too much influence on the mind and start thinking you need to change things that don't necessarily need to be changing right now. Because like I said, Pluto's retrograde, so this is more of a review of the transformation instead of an actual transformation. Mars is coming out of a trine with Neptune. So if you've been kind of unsure of what to do next, we'll be moving out of some of that energy after you do the proper releasing that the full moon is asking you to do. And then in a week or so, we enter a Mars-Venus trine, which will be really nice because you'll feel like you'll be receiving a little bit more. So then you're able to take those next steps forward. Jupiter in Gemini also has a tendency to bring up scattered focus and just a little too much mentally. And it's squaring both the nodes. These are the nodes, which can give you anxiety over what was versus what will be. And Jupiter in Gemini is also squaring Saturn, which can make you a little too overstimulated to really lock in and focus. So be aware of that because that will affect the moon cycle that we have going on. What this is really asking you is, are you willing to do the hard stuff when it's not fun or it feels too slow? Because sometimes Taurus moves a little bit slow. Or will you continue to hop from idea to idea because you're not committed to the outcome that you've seen for yourself? So you instead start looking at all these options that you have because you're emotional. Hopefully I figure out how to edit this the way that I see it in my head. Let me know what you guys think of the table. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What color should I paint these little things? Because I am going to paint them. I hope this was helpful. Next time I see you will be for the new moon in Gemini on May 26th. And by then, Venus moves out of shadow. So we'll feel like we're ready to move on in the areas of love, finance, creativity. And that'll give Mars a little bit of what he needs to get a little bit more done instead of being in this aspect with foggy, confusing Neptune. Even though they're in a trine, it's making it a little bit hard for Mars to do his thing right now. Mercury will also move into Gemini by the next time I see you. He loves to be there. And Saturn will move into Aries, where he'll spend the next couple years. That's kind of a slower transit, but it does help for self-discipline. I'm Sammy. This is Infinity Aura Av. Like I said, I hope you like my new table. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you next time for the moon meeting. Bye.